What would you do if two fake cops showed up at your front door and you realized they were sent by your own HOA to intimidate you? The first knock wasn't gentle. Let me tell you, it was the kind that says someone wants to be taken seriously, sharp and quick, like they're ready to force the issue if you give them the chance. It was 7:42 p.m. when it happened. I just set my dinner plate down on the counter, maybe 2 bites in, when it hit the door hard enough to make me freeze mid-step. I waited listening. There it was again, louder this time, the kind that made every hair on your arm stand up. Now my house sits on a corner lot in a neighborhood just outside Plano, Texas, the kind of place where after sunset everything's supposed to quiet down. Folks walk their dogs, porch lights flick on, and nobody knocks on your door unless something's real wrong. I moved toward the hallway, peeking out that skinny window by the door. Two guys, both tall, both standing way too stiff, their uniforms a patchwork of navy vests, cheap boots, black shirts, not a single piece matched. Their badges, please. I've seen more convincing ones at Walmart during Halloween. "Police open the door, ma'am." One called out, his voice not quite steady enough to fool me. I stayed quiet, just watching them, because, let's be honest, my years as a deputy U.S. Marshal taught me how to read a man faster than most. Their eyes kept darting. The taller one had his hand too close to his pocket. The other couldn't stop fidgeting. They looked about as comfortable as a couple of kids wearing their dad's suits. "Who sent you?" I asked through the door, my voice low and steady. The tall one cleared his throat. "We got a call. Disturbance complaint. From your HOA?" Disturbance. I hadn't played a song, hadn't had a soul over, hadn't even opened a window since that morning jog. Disturbance of what I pushed. The shorter guy glanced at his buddy, nervous. "Just open up, ma'am. We need to check inside." Now, if they were real law enforcement, they'd have given me a department, flashed their actual IDs. None of that happened. Instead, I got police department, like that was supposed to mean something. No city, no badge number, nothing but attitude. So I did what I always do when someone tries to push me around. I leaned in. "If you're really officers, state your names and badge numbers." Silence. The shorter one actually twitched his hand, doing a little dance by his belt. "Lady, don't make this difficult." That's when I couldn't help myself. I grinned. Funny, 'cause difficult is what I do for a living. That's the line that set them off. They hadn't expected pushback, especially from a woman alone in her living room. I took my sweet time reaching for my badge, that old black leather case with the silver emblem, held it up so the porch light caught it just right. Their faces, man, you should have seen it. The tall one went stiff as a board. The short one literally took a step back, like he'd just realized he'd knocked on the devil's own door by mistake. They traded a look, then bolted straight off my porch, half running to their unmarked sedan down the block, peeled out like they owed the asphalt money. I just stood there, not scared, not relieved, just ticked off. Because this wasn't random, and in my neighborhood, you don't need a private detective to know where this sort of stunt comes from. My phone buzzed. My neighbor Carla texted, "Did two officers just leave your house?" I shot back, "Not real officers." Her reply, "Then who were they?" That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? One thing about Texas suburbs questions don't stay secrets for long. I didn't sleep much. Sat at my kitchen table with that badge on the counter, thinking about every detail, those badges, those voices, how the tall one couldn't even say what department he was supposed to be from. Morning came. I pulled on my running shoes and headed out. Because if I don't run, my head won't stop spinning. The whole time I'm looking at all these perfect lawns and identical shutters, thinking, yeah, it all looks safe, but there's something rotten underneath. Halfway through my loop, I slowed by Carla's driveway. She was out watering her roses robe, tied tight, her eyes big as quarters. "Simone, you scared me half to death last night," she said. "I saw them leave. They looked like cops, but..." "That's because they weren't," I said, keeping my voice flat. "So who were they?" she asked. "That's what I want to know." I told her. "And better yet, who sent them?" Carla lowered her voice. You don't think it's the HOA, do you? That's exactly what they said, I replied. Disturbance complaint. Carla tried to lighten the mood. Only disturbance I ever heard from your house was when the Cowboys lost. I cracked a smile, but this was bigger than football. The HOA had always been strict, but this was another level. Sending fake cops, that's not neighborly, that's criminal. Back home, my phone rang. Detective Roland Pierce, Plano PD. Miss Givens, you filed a report last night about 2 suspicious men at your door. Sure did. He asked for details. I gave him everything, their builds, mismatched gear, even the kind of boots the tall one wore, which, by the way, were way too clean for a beat cop. Did they threaten you? He asked. Implied authority they didn't have, I said. Tried to get me to open the door. That's threat enough. You sure they weren't real officers? He asked. I had to laugh. Detective, I was a U.S. Marshal for 15 years. I know what a real cop looks like. He promised to check traffic cams, see if he could trace their car. And while you're at it, I told him check if anyone on my HOA board has ties to those 2. He hesitated. Why do you say that? Because that's what they claimed, I answered. That afternoon, a letter from the HOA arrived, white envelope, official letterhead. It was a warning about noise passive-aggressive as can be. No signature. Just another threat paper this time to go with the fake uniforms. I called my mama in Shreveport. She just sighed. Baby people who hide behind uniforms don't want the law, they want control. She was right, and I was done giving up control in my own house. The next night, another knock, softer, but my hand hovered over the grip of the Glock on my hip as I looked through the peephole. Just Carla holding her phone up, trembling. I just got this, she said, a forwarded group email from the HOA. We have received multiple complaints about Miss Givens's property being a disruption to the community. I handed her phone back. That's personal, I said. And they're counting on everyone staying quiet while they pick us off one at a time. Carla whispered. They find you for the smallest thing, threaten liens. Most folks just pay and stay quiet. I smiled. That's what keeps them in power, Carla. Detective Pierce called again, traced the rental car to a fake name paid in cash, tied to a security contractor the HOA had hired before, Travis Blaylock out of Garland. Shady record unlicensed, sued twice for impersonation. Guess who signed the payment checks? Let me guess, I said Kellum. That'd be Martin Kellum, HOA president, king of the subdivision. Be careful, Miss Givens, Pierce said. People like that, they get desperate when you corner them. I told him messy's my specialty. But the mess just kept growing. The next morning, Carla called. The board's holding an emergency meeting. They're bringing you up in front of everyone. Good, I said. Let them. The clubhouse was packed that night, neighbors fanning themselves with agendas. Kellum stood at the front, slick suit, slick smile. Miss Givens, there have been complaints, noise, disrespect. Funny, I shot back, my lawn's trimmed, and the only noise at my house is your gardener at 6 in the morning. A few folks chuckled, and while we're at it, maybe explain the 2 men in fake uniforms who showed up at my door. The room went dead quiet. If you encountered impersonators, that's a matter for police, Kellum said. Already spoken to police, I answered, and if you think I'll let intimidation slide, you don't know me. That meeting ended with more whispers than answers, and afterward Kellum tried to catch me alone in the parking lot. You embarrassed me tonight, he growled. Makes you reckless, not strong. Order, I told him, doesn't come from sending imposters to intimidate neighbors. That's abuse. He laughed. Rules only matter if people believe in them. My job is to make sure they do. If that means being the bad guy, so be it. You crossed a line, I told him, and I don't scare easy. The next morning, they ramped up the pressure. Orange violation slip on my door, improper waste bin placement. Then a letter about my fence, structurally unsound. Carla showed up wringing her hands. They're warning everyone that siding with you could risk their homes. Classic scare tactic, I said. But I could feel it, the neighborhood was splitting. Folks were nervous, but some were starting to get angry too. Thomas Rivera. Quiet neighbor called me over one morning. They tried it on me too. Fined me for parking my truck, then fabricated a disturbance when I pushed back. I've got records. Mind sharing, I asked. He handed over a folder. Be careful, he said. Kellum doesn't like losing. I emailed Pierce all the documents. He called right back. If we can show a pattern, fabricated, complaints, bogus fines, intimidation, that's criminal. And just like that, folks started whispering in a different direction. Thomas went door to door. Carla shared screenshots. Neighbors compared stories. The HOA's control was slipping. When the police finally moved in, news vans followed. And there was Kellum, led out in handcuffs, face twisted with anger and disbelief. Carla stood beside me and whispered, I never thought I'd see this day. People like him count on silence, I said. But silence doesn't last forever. Janice and Daryl, board members who'd always looked the other way, resigned. A vote was called for new leadership this time, with folks demanding open books and real accountability. But the real victory wasn't in the arrest. It was in the way neighbors started looking each other in the eye again. No more ducking or dodging. You know, my mother always said, people who hide behind uniforms aren't interested in law. They want control. Well, control left with Kellum's arrest, and it's not coming back. Neighborhood meetings became open fines had to be justified. And for the first time in a long time, folks weren't afraid to speak up. So if you've made it this far, here's what I'll leave you with. Never give fear the final word. Stand up, speak out, even if you're alone at first. Because courage, it's contagious. And when people start believing in their own voices, no HOA, no bully, no board of control can keep them down for long. So tell me, what would you have done? Have you ever stood up when it felt like everyone else was ducking? Share your story, because truth only wins when we tell it out loud. And if you want to see how courage keeps breaking through, you know where to find me next time.